K-stories on small and big screens in recent years have been led by strong female characters, and such plotlines have been garnering much global attention. With more press perspective today. Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Press Perspective, during which our panel of press members touch upon the weekly Hallyu highlights that have been making international headlines as well. For this, I have Soo Kim, a Korean culture and entertainment reporter for the weekly American magazine Newsweek. Soo, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on.
Right. I also have reporter Choi Chi-hee here in the studio. Chi, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Chi, female narratives are dominating Korea's small screens as we speak. Let's start off then with this refreshing phenomenon.
Sure. So recently, Korean television dramas have seen a surge in female-centric narratives, marking a significant shift in storytelling. So this trend reflects not just a changing audience preference, but also a broader cultural shift toward more diverse and empowered portrayals of women on screen. So popular dramas like A Virtuous Business featuring Kim So-yeon and Jeongyeon, The Star is Born starring Kim Tae-ri are prime examples. And these dramas have resonated with viewers, breaking into top buzz rankings and achieving strong ratings as well. So Kim Tae-ri's Jeongyeon achieved record-breaking ratings, cementing its place as a standout drama this season. And similarly, A Virtuous Business has achieved new highs as well, reflecting its popularity with audiences, particularly in its nuanced portrayal of its female lead. To be specific, Jeongyeon이 is set in the 1950s after the Korean War, and it depicts the story of a character who is naturally gifted singer, dreaming of becoming a successful actress in Seoul, and the character struggles to stay afloat and tries her best to become one of the best in the industry. And on the other hand, A Virtuous Business is set in the early 1990s, depicting the story of three housewives and one single mother who start an adult products business in their rural hometown in order to have financial independence as women. Well, the drive behind all this change, part of it lies in the increasing appetite for narratives that explore more layered and complex portrayals of a powerful female character. And from historical dramas to modern-day settings, these shows are tackling subjects like ambition, hardship, and self-determination, narratives that were previously underrepresented in the industry among women. And so these evolving narratives not only emphasize women's struggles and successes, but also redefine traditional roles, challenging outdated stereotypes here in the country as well. So this shift really mirrors broader societal changes within Korea as well, where gender roles and expectations are being actively re-examined. So as a result, this trend isn't just about showcasing women-led stories, but about evolving the K-drama landscape to reflect diverse and multi-dimensional portrayals that resonate with contemporary audiences, not just within Korea, but also globally.
Right, outside Korea as well then. Right, Sue, as Chi mentioned then, K-dramas with assertive and diverse female leads have been garnering much popularity in recent times. How do you care to explain this phenomenon?
Yeah, I think, as they say, art imitates life, and I think the prevalence of these strong, sort of assertive female characters that we've been seeing more of in K-dramas and films as well in recent years is, I'd say, definitely a reflection of the times we are in now and how the views of women and their roles have been evolving at a societal level in recent years. I mean, it's certainly been a very interesting time for women in South Korea in the past, I'd say, probably near a decade or so, from the launch of the Me Too movement back in 2016 in South Korea and spurred on by the global movement, and to women in more recent years choosing not to get married or foregoing having kids, which has already been having quite a seismic impact on the fate of the country's population. And it's yet to be determined what that sort of lasting effect and the bigger changes that will come from that for both women and men will be. As well as the portion of women in the workforce has also hit an all-time high, I believe in about the last year or so, at around 60%. So I'd say probably there's certainly been plenty of inspiration to draw from and more diverse stories to tell on the small screen from the female perspective and its many layers.
Right then, for some better perspective, Sue, what can you tell us about the shift in the roles of female characters in Korean screen productions over the past years?
Well, I'd say what stands out the most in female characters we're seeing in recent years is that they're actually much more multidimensional and nuanced. The arc of women's stories are not just framed around topics relating to traditional Korean values based on women by society or history, such as family, marriage, kids, relationships, or whatnot. And their roles are also not as defined, I think, or contained in relation to a male counterpart or storyline. And I think often many of their storylines have nothing to do with sort of these conventional themes around women. For example, we're just seeing a lot more complex stories of female heroines portrayed even in sort of period dramas, which is a time when traditional gender roles around women had taken quite a stronghold. I think I've seen this sort of like in the cult Kingdom series on the Netflix, where one of the female leads plays a physician who plays quite a pivotal role in the search for a cure for the zombie outbreak. And I think also women are just no longer just playing the quote virtuous roles as well, as delegated by Confucian sort of values and teachings in the past. They're playing the villains. They're playing the darker, more controversial, sort of flawed and messy characters that we're seeing on the screen.
Right, flawed characters like the one played by Song Hye-kyo in The Glory, I believe, right, which was quite a hit on Netflix as well. Chi, I hear this current shift to stronger female leads has been covered by the foreign media as well, right? Do tell us a bit more about that.
That's right. So many foreign media outlets, including Forbes, have been keenly observing and celebrating the emergence of strong female leads in K-dramas these days. Now, in a detailed analysis, Forbes pointed to dramas like Agency and Mine as key examples of this trend, which reflects a broader societal shift in Korea toward gender equity and nuanced portrayals of women. Now, these shows feature women who are not just supporting characters, but play pivotal, independent figures in their narratives. So by embracing flawed, like you mentioned, and ambitious characters, these dramas resonate with a global audience thirsty for stories of female empowerment. And Forbes emphasizes that K-dramas with these empowered female characters are shedding traditional stereotypes, focusing instead on women navigating careers, power struggles, and personal hardships, and of course, growth. So this pivot in storytelling aligns with evolving cultural norms once again in the country, while also appealing to audiences beyond its borders. And this new wave of narratives contributes to the global appeal of Korean dramas, positioning them as agents of cultural change, both domestically and internationally.
And how are these foreign media reports perhaps explaining this tangible shift in the portrayal of the female character within K-dramas and K-movies?
Well, foreign medias, including BBC and CNN, have extensively covered the evolution of female representation in Korean dramas, attributing it to a broader societal shift within Korea. So according to the BBC, this change reflects demands for a more progressive portrayal of women that aligns with changing gender roles. And dramas like The Glory, as you mentioned earlier, and Revenant explore female resilience in the face of violence and social injustices, reflecting real-world issues such as workplace discrimination, bullying, and revenge porn even. For example, The Glory depicts a woman's journey from being a victim to taking revenge, offering a strong narrative against bullying and power dynamics. And CNN highlights that this new wave of K-dramas appeals to a global audience due to its focus on complex female characters, navigating independence and ambition. And many of these characters challenge patriarchal systems, reflecting broader social transformations in South Korea, where traditional expectations of women are being redefined. And both BBC and CNN emphasize that these new narratives are not just shifting portrayals, but are reshaping global perceptions of Korean culture by challenging gender norms and presenting empowered female voices. And foreign coverage often praise K-dramas for tackling deep deeper social issues as well, such as gender discrimination, toxic workplaces, and systemic violence against women. So these shifts surely align with changing societal norms in the country, appealing to global audiences seeking narratives highlighting female resilience and empowerment.
Right. So now, regardless of the latest shift then, what may be some of the uniquely Korean traits of its female characters on screens, both big and small?
I'd say, I mean, it is hard, I think, to put a finger on what makes the Korean female character amid this ongoing shift. But I'd say one unique trait we do tend to see in many female roles in K-dramas and films is the sense of duality of being strong but still sensitive in some way, shape, or form, however small the level might be. I mean, of course, there are exceptions, but I believe in some of the darkest sort of female characters have been shown to carry an almost unexpected sort of emotional, soft element to their role that it inevitably shapes their storyline and character. And I think another trait we often see is some form of tie or obligation or affinity towards family and this dilemma over prioritizing themselves or others, which I think really stems from the importance of family forming such a huge foundational part of Korean culture, and women just traditionally being upheld as sort of the guardians of that home and family space. So I think many of the roles we see on screen have not yet sort of been completely divorced from those traditional roots. So it's certainly less common, I think, to see women just being purely selfish or unapologetically ruthless without sort of an explanation or some form of sensitivity in them. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this may or may not change in the coming years ahead in the industry.
Right. So generally speaking, how does such diversity in terms of the female characters on Korean screen productions look to affect the popularity of K-dramas and K-movies going forward?
I think that this burgeoning sort of diversity of female characters in Korean works can only help to advance their appeal and popularity, I think, overseas, with a large range of stories and characters that can be relatable to so many people across the globe. And we can only sort of challenge any established perceptions of Korean women and Asian women in general, I'd say, and how they've been portrayed in sort of non-Korean works as well. And it could potentially open up more opportunities for K-dramas and films on the international scale, even in Hollywood, demonstrating that potential for more complex stories to be told from the Korean female perspective. And I think ultimately the success of these K-dramas and films in recent years is down to their Koreanness, with more and more fans of Korean works being inspired to further explore and better understand various aspects of Korean culture portrayed on screen. And I think the same effects could take hold with the prevalence of more diverse Korean female characters, just generating a renewed interest in these Korean stories.
Right. Now, Chi, do tell us a bit about any upcoming screen production that includes an appealing, assertive female character.
Sure. So we've seen a lot of short series until now, but this new drama in MBC that's being launched in November, it's titled 친절한 선주 씨, or literally Kind Miss Sunju, but I think they have a different name for it as well, like Desperate Sunju. And the show will consist of 120 episodes because it's a daily drama, 일일 드라마, we say it in Korean, and is set to premiere, like I said, on the 11th of next month, November. Now, the drama centers around the female lead called Pi Sunju, who is trying to rebuild her life after a failed marriage. Usually in Korea, having a failed marriage or a divorce is more stigmatized against women, but it's very different, this story, because having sacrificed so much for her husband's success, she finds herself divorced after learning that he had an affair. But despite losing everything she worked hard for, Pi Sunju refuses to succumb to despair. Instead, she views this as a pivotal moment in her life. She makes it into a turning point. So she's very determined to rediscover her potential and her skills. So she pursues a career in interior design and starts her own business. She goes through all these struggles, and as she navigates her journey of recovery from loss and heartbreak, she gradually begins to find happiness again in her new life. And so the drama aims to inspire viewers by showing how Pi Sunju transforms her life and demonstrates resilience in the face of adversity.
And this is a drama that's going to start on the 11th of November,
Yes.
120 episodes.
Yes, it's a daily one. Yeah.
Right, good to know. So do you have any favorite K-dramas or movie that boasts a strong female character?
I think for me, one sort of recent film that comes to mind in terms of a very strong female character is Kilboksin, with the lead role obviously played by the veteran actress Chun Do-yeon. I really love the many complex layers that her character came with and how she sort of defies all conventions, I think, in terms of Korean norms, as this elite female assassin whose skills surpass her male counterparts. And yet she's also very much a single working mother, just trying to maintain her career while raising a teenage daughter and just seeking her daughter's approval and affection at the end of the day. So I felt like there were just so many interesting dynamics going on with her story and character. And I'd say probably in terms of the series, the one that comes to mind is Pachinko, which is another favorite of mine, which had a bevy of strong female characters. But of course, the lead role of Sunja felt so powerful, I think, in how she fights so hard to make a life for herself against the odds of the oppressive times that she was living in. And I think it's been quite fascinating to see how these strong female roles have been featured, especially in period dramas, just emphasizing how these strong, assertive women have always existed, even in those colonial times, but their stories are only now just starting to be told.
Right. And Chi, here in the studio, this is an impromptu question. What might be a favorite K-drama for you that includes, of course, a strong female character?
Well, I have a few actually, but let me just mention one drama that I watched recently. It's titled Family Times Mellow, 가족 X Mello. I'm not sure if that's the exact English name, but it's a family drama, and it centers around the woman, the mother who raises her children after getting a divorce. And she's like the pivotal character, and her first daughter, she's in charge of sort of making the money. She's like the breadwinner after the divorce of her parents, because her dad used to earn all the money, but there were some family issues. And later the father comes back, but they don't depend on him, even though he came back being very rich. So I really liked how they still have that strong, independent woman figure, the daughter and the mother, continuing throughout the drama. And it was a very heartwarming family sort of drama that I really liked and watched recently with a female lead.
Right. Soo, like I mentioned at the start of our talk, you are a Korean culture and entertainment reporter for American weekly magazine Newsweek. Is there a particular subject or topic that your readers seem to be especially interested in, beyond, of course, K-dramas and female characters? Are they more interested in K-pop? Do you see them being more interested in bigger screen productions?
I think in recent years, I probably started from the Squid Game phenomenon that I think really ignited a genuine more interest in K-dramas. That's what I've been seeing in terms of our readership. I remember at the time when Squid Game had just come out and just started talking about it. It was, no one could have predicted the phenomenon that it had become. And I think people were, constantly just seeking out every aspect and dissecting every aspect of that show. So I think there's definitely been a greater appetite for K-dramas in general. I mean, I think Korean films have sort of been, I think, on the map, but I think in recent years, K-dramas have certainly been coming to the forefront for our readership.
Right, and staying with K-dramas, of course, Squid Game Season 2 is set to be out in December, I believe, right, Soo? All right.
Yes, I think that's Christmas, yeah.
Right. Well, that's all the time I'm afraid we have today. Soo, thank you so much for your time and thoughts all the way from London. And Chi here in the studio, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you, Sunny.
Right, well, that ends this edition of Press Perspective. Thank you for watching. Do join us again tomorrow.